This week on Deep Space Pride, a gay Star Trek podcast, we talk about the latest Lower Decks episode, Mining the Mind's Mines. That's a tongue twister. And we talk about some other things that we're watching since there's not a whole lot of news since Star Trek Day. Thanks for joining us. Hey, Johnson.
Hey, Mike.
Happy Wednesday. How are you doing today?
Happy Wednesday. I am doing okay. How are you doing?
I am not too bad for midweek. I'm glad that we are getting over the hump, as they say, and moving towards Friday, which will be nice.
Yeah, this week needs to end. I'm ready for it to be over.
I think we were ready for it to be over on Monday, actually. Really?
That's right. And I'm ready for retirement in general. But here we are.
Here we are, working and podcasting and suffering technical challenges. For some reason, my internet wants to act up whenever we go to record. I have no idea why.
Well, it is worse when you do have the door closed. So this is an improvement. But
yeah, the door is wide open. You know, it's I have no idea.
Yeah, when we did our interviews with Will Wheaton and Dr. Sam, I feel that you had your door closed because those were both really bad.
Yeah. Thanks for reminding me of all the bad times we've had. That's great.
But there are also good times. The bad times and the good times.
Are there good times?
Yes. All should be celebrated.
All should be celebrated. Yes. Not a lot of things to talk about this week, really. It's been...
Well, I mean, we've been watching other shit other than Star Trek because there's not much in terms of Star Trek news.
Yeah, and once you watch a 30-minute episode of Lower Decks, you're like kind of done with Star Trek for the most part. Although I did pick up Star Trek 400, which has the comic, which is got a bunch of stories in it. I have not read it yet, but it also has a story by aforementioned Will Wheaton. And I also yesterday, I guess, I'm finishing another audiobook, so that's why I haven't started listening to it. But I have a new audiobook for Star Trek in my library waiting for me from Picard, which is called Second Self by Una.
Oh, yes.
Una McCormick.
Yes, we talked about this. Yeah.
So that is waiting for me to listen to. I hope that's good. So I do have some Star Trek stuff, but yeah, for the most part, I have, and actually we talked a little bit about this last week. I have not gone back to watching more Game of Thrones. In fact, I'm a week behind on the House of Dragon or House of the Dragon. And yeah,
you never say it right. House of the Dragon.
Yeah, I don't say it right. You're correct. And I haven't continued my Game of Thrones rewatch. Instead, I've been going to space and watching The Expanse, which I am now halfway through season 3. And I remember kind of why I was texting with you earlier. I kind of remember why I lost a little bit of interest in The Expanse. Midway through season 3, it just totally shifts. Like it does one of those like, oh my gosh, we got to wrap up, like almost as if we're going to be canceled. And so we need to wrap it up. And so they wrapped up the Mars Earth war and Aaron Wright was, under arrest and all of that. And, and then the next episode, we're jumping ahead months and months ahead, around this, this racer guy. He's kind of the backbone of this initial story.
I remember. Yeah.
He's zooming around, he's in something like the Razorback, a one-seater vessel that is trying to break speed records and do crazy shit, and
Right,
it's sort of
right,
like streaming on Twitch or whatever.
right.
So it's around that, and then suddenly Avasarala is back on Earth and taking over because the general, the not the general, but the general secretary or whatever, secretary general, has
Mhm.
stepped down, rightfully so. I mean, he was a pawn and a weak leader, and Aaron Wright's arrested, obviously. But
Right.
then we're doing this documentary, which I hate when TV shows do this.
Oh my
I
God.
really do. I hate it. And
Well, you
Naomi's
don't like the
gone.
reporter,
I don't
right?
like the reporter. Yeah, I think that's also why I didn't, these are, multiple reasons why I like fell out of love with The Expanse, because the first 2.5 seasons were so freaking good. And then we shift gears and it's almost like a whole new, and I don't remember back in the day what happened. Maybe a new showrunner came in. I don't know. New writing team. I don't know, but suddenly the crew's dispersed, or Naomi's gone away, and so is Bobby, and it's just
Is
not
season
as
three the
good.
one with the planet? With on the planet?
No, that's season 4, I want to
Oh,
say,
that's season four, really?
because the ring. So at the end of season 2, the ring forms, and or
Right.
no, so sorry, that just happened. Sorry, that happened at the midpoint of season 3.
Yes,
That
yes,
was
yes,
part of the
yes.
whole
The
conclusion
Venus
of the
thing.
Venus thing, came out of Venus and then made the ring. And that was the end of like the first half of season 3. So that's also what happened. And
Oh yeah, that was intense. That
now
was good.
vessels are investigating it, including the speech writer who was in the first half of season 1, or the first half of the season. She's now on a ship.
Yes, Juliet from Lost.
Yes, yes, Juliet from Lost. And
Yes. I don't
so,
remember her name.
yeah,
What's her
so
name? What's her
I
name?
don't know. Um, I don't know. So yeah, so it's just became a
Elizabeth Mitchell.
oh, that, see, look at you and the internet. Um, yeah, so it's just become so I'm already kind of like, I watched the like intro to the second half of the season episode, and I'm like, ugh. Ugh. And also we meet Julie Mao's sister, right? The one with superpowers that.
Yes, yes. So that's the second half of season three.
And this also
Yes.
brings up a good point, because when I got back into it, when you and I started talking about it, which was probably season 5, I think we both watched
Yeah.
season 5 and loved it. But all these characters started coming back in, and I couldn't remember them. And this is probably why, because I pretty much
Oh.
assumed that the show ended midway through season 3 and forgot about all these characters who were introduced.
The end of season three is also very intense, though, as usual.
Okay, yeah. Well, I haven't gotten there yet. I don't remember, but this is the point where things got fuzzy. So
Mm,
anyway,
yeah.
this is not the Expanse podcast, although it could be, because we both love this show. But
We talked about doing like an
oh
expanse, like
yeah,
bonus
special
episode.
episode. Yes, we
Yeah.
did. Um,
It's a really good show.
it
One
really
of the best
is.
sci-fi shows in the last 20 years.
Yes, I would agree. Yes. I
Yeah.
mean, like we've talked about, and this throws it into the category with For All Mankind too, is that it really shows what space would be like.
Correct.
It obeys the laws of physics. It does all of those things that make it real. It shows how deadly space can be. I mean, the first episode of The Expanse basically says, talks about the belt, and it says, the two most important resources in the universe are air and water.
Air and water, yeah. And
Uh,
it's just like, and not to rehash old conversations, but it's also just in the context of these really complex characters that are just really well fleshed out. Like it's
yes.
just, it's
Yeah.
all about the character development for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
In along with the mythology of the universe they live in.
Right. Yeah, they're complex
So
characters. They're three-dimensional characters.
yes, very,
Um,
very complex, very very much faulty, law
yeah.
baggage.
Yeah, human. They portray us, they portray us as human, or they portray the characters as like us, human, and have, make mistakes and, do stupid things. So yeah.
Yeah. Great show. Great show.
Great show. Yes.
Amazing show.
So yeah, and I still have not started Lord of the Rings yet.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm watching both Lord of the Rings and House of the Dragon, and I think that Lord of the Rings is fine. It's beautiful. It's really nice to look at. You haven't watched any of it?
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah, no, it's worth watching because Amazon spent like $1 billion on it. So the money,
yeah. I mean,
the money is like visible.
Yeah. I'm sure.
It's a little expensive. It looks expensive.
Yeah,
it does look very expensive.
I mean, well, Peter Jackson spent billions on the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Hobbit trilogy, so
yeah, it's just for like a TV
for
show.
a TV show. Yes, of course.
Like nowadays, like a $200-300 million movie is like not unheard of.
Right. Yeah,
and each of the Lord of the Rings movies was around that, so altogether it was around like $1 billion. 3 movies,
Yeah.
Exactly. Versus one season of TV. It's very different.
Yes.
But yeah, it's okay. I mean, I'm not going to say too much about it because you're probably going to watch it at some point.
Yeah.
I know that, you have the sci-fi itch that you need to scratch at the moment.
I did, correct.
But yeah, it is good. It's good. I do think House of the Dragon is better because I think that the thing about Tolkien is that a lot of the characters are not too complex. Even if you think about Lord of the Rings, the characters, other than like I think Frodo and Sam and their relationship, and how their relationship develops because of Frodo's journey, that's a little more complicated. But a lot of the other characters, if you think about it, like Legolas and like Gimli and Gandalf, Aragorn, they're not very complex.
Actually, I was going to say Aragorn, I feel is more complex because
he's a little bit more complex, but he's not like, oh my God, he's not, he's definitely, in my mind, it's other than the love affair between him and Erwin, is that her name?
Yes.
Like it's not, and he has baggage because he has this duty to become king or whatever.
Right. Yeah. That's sort of what I meant by complex. Like he has the pull of history that, is sort of forcing him to be, more than he is. But also, yes, he's in love with an elf. But
it's also like kind of like it's a hero's journey tale, it's not exactly, at the end of the day, they're not like, I would say any of the characters on The Expanse are much more complex than any of the characters.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
Like it's not like the Lord of the Rings characters don't have faults, but they have nowhere near as much depth as something like The Expanse.
Yeah.
And I think that carries over into the Rings of Power.
Sure.
Where a lot of the characters are tropey somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
And you think that, you see a little bit more opportunity for more beneath the surface, but we're not getting that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, House of the Dragon, these characters are very complicated already.
Yes, they are. I would agree.
They're very conflicted. You can tell even by like these really subtle performances. Like, for example, if we were talking about Alliston Hightower. What's her name?
Oh, Allison. Yeah, Allison Hightower. Yeah,
Alicent.
Oh, Alicent. Yes,
Alicent. She's very complicated. It's like she's being manipulated, but you can also tell that she's very conflicted, and
she has some. She manipulates as well.
Sure, but then she also, you can tell that she also does generally care as well. Like it's not just one dimension. You know what I mean?
Yes,
you can
it's not another. What's her name? Who is the Joffrey's mother?
Cersei.
Cersei. She's not a Cersei.
Cersei was a little bit. Yeah, Cersei was a little bit more of like villainous, but she has her layers too. But she's mostly just messed up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a thing. Like they're both very expensive shows, but one has just much more much more in the way of rich characters. that I kind of I'm liking oh my god, House of the Dragon more, but we'll see where this
Yeah.
billion-dollar show gets us.
Yeah, the other thing to think about too is that these two series are based upon books and things that are written in two completely different times, you know.
Sure, but the thing about the Rings of Power, I will say, is that they're based upon just notes from Tolkien because they don't have the rights to the actual books, so they can do
Oh,
almost whatever
really?
they want. It's actually
Oh.
very similar to the Rings of Power because uh J.R. Martin, oh my god, George R. R. Martin. I'm like
Yes, I
conflating
know, yeah.
J.R. Tolkien with
Yeah.
George R. R. Martin. Oh my god. So George R. R. Martin kind of wrote like broad histories, and they're kind of fleshing it out. The same thing with the Rings of Power. Tolkien wrote broad histories as well, and they can almost do whatever they want.
Oh,
So they
interesting.
both actually have the opportunity to create more complexity than is actually because they have so little to draw from, they can actually do a lot more with it.
Interesting.
So anyway, we'll see. We'll see. It's still early for both shows.
Yeah, I mean they both are at episodes 3 or 4 at this point,
Yeah.
and yeah. Wow. So yeah, so there's a lot of fantasy going on. So I needed some more sci-fi, and next week
Yes.
we've got Andor coming out with 3 episodes.
Andor, yes. Andor, I'm excited for
Which
Andor.
I am not as excited as I was about Obi-Wan, but um I don't know. I guess I've been hearing a little bit more and more about it, and so
Well, the great thing
obviously I
about
will watch
Endor
it.
is that the issue that I have Obi-Wan is Obi-Wan had to kind of fit within very confined mythology because there's so much around
Yes,
Obi-Wan
true.
already. Whereas
Yep.
Endor, completely new character, they can do whatever they want,
Yep.
leading up to Rogue One. So I
Yeah.
feel that they have a lot of opportunity to create like new stories with that.
Yeah, I just hope that, and for me, Andor is not like that attractive of a central character.
Mm-hmm.
I really did love Rogue One, to be honest. I mean, it
Yes,
is a
yes,
great Star Wars movie.
yes.
But I wouldn't say that I watched it because of Andor. I mean, he was almost, he was definitely overshadowed in the
Sure,
movie.
sure.
By I would say almost the entire rest of the cast, to be honest. Um, but so yeah, so I'm not quite as enamored with him. So I'm hoping that they're, at least with Obi-Wan, you have some recognition with that character, but also Jedi's are much more Jedi's, and the Sith are much more fleshed out ideas and that sort of thing. Whereas this whole idea of political intrigue and rebellion, and we get to see the Senate. I think we're going to see Mon
Mm-hmm.
Mothma has a big part in this. So this is a very different, and none of these characters are like, oh my gosh, you got to watch this because of X. I think
Yeah, I don't think I'm excited for that because of the character, but I feel there's going to be more like intrigue, like political intrigue, maybe,
yeah,
a little bit of espionage, like things like that. That I
yeah.
think
I mean,
would be
maybe
cool.
maybe it'll come off as like the Star Wars version of the Bourne trilogy or something, or something. I don't really think it's a more of a Bond, like a James Bond series, but I'm hoping it's something a little more,
Definitely more gritty.
yeah, which Bourne, Jason Bourne was.
Sure.
So yeah,
And the Handmaid's Tale comes back today. I'm excited for it. I know it's not your type of show
it is
because
not.
it's very
It's
dark and
it's
harrowing.
it's very dark.
Even I have to admit, it's pretty. Sometimes I watch it, I'm like, oh man, this is really hard to watch. And I'm into dark shit,
Yeah.
so I am excited. I am excited though. I am very excited, and I'm a big fan of Elizabeth Moss. I'm also a big fan of what's her name from Chuck.
Oh, I have no idea.
Wait, you've never seen Chuck?
No, I have, but I don't remember who
But you
starred
know what I'm
in it.
talking about. It's like Yvonne something something.
No idea.
She plays Chuck's love interest. You don't remember her?
No, I don't. I barely remember Zachary Levi playing Chuck, but other than that,
Yvonne Strahovski.
okay, yeah, still not ringing a bell, but
Okay.
yeah, no, this show has zero interest for me. It is too dark and potentially realistic that
I
it
know
is
that's a problem.
it is
It's too
disturbing.
close to real life.
Yes, it is. And that's um yeah, that's a
But it's so
problem for
well
me.
done.
Yeah, I mean it's going into 5 seasons. I never thought, this is the fifth season, correct?
Yeah, they're gonna do one more season.
Okay. All right.
And then there's gonna be a spin-off.
Oh my word. Well, I mean,
So they're not
that's
done.
that's the whole point of TV now. If you have a good show and you can develop your cast of characters in a way
Yeah.
that there can be a spin-off, then more power to you. I wish that were the case back in Deep Space Nine's day, to bring it back to Star
Oh
Trek for
yeah.
a little bit.
Okay.
I mean, talk about a series that builds out such a rich tapestry of characters
Mm-hmm.
and potential, avenues to go. That, unfortunately, that was not the time or the place for that kind of,
Well, it's very different. Now we have
yeah,
streaming, and now we can have a season of just 6 episodes. Like
yeah,
that's not possible. That wasn't possible, rather, back in the day.
right, yeah, yeah. It's funny. So, do you remember? I honestly, like, I get these emails occasionally from a service I used to use that would allow me to, get things that were not necessarily streaming readily. And is that vague enough, but yet specific enough?
What? What are you
uh,
talking about?
torrenting. Do you remember the days of
Oh, of
torrenting?
course. Yeah, of
Yes.
course.
It's funny. Like I do none of that anymore. Like it's all so readily available.
Yeah, I don't
Uh,
torrent anymore. I used to, I'll be honest, but so did everyone. But now it's so like available.
yeah,
There's so much content that why is there a need to torrent anything? I don't know.
right. No,
I mean,
so
but now we just share logins. That's what we
yeah,
do now.
yeah.
Now we
Torrenting
share
is
logins.
torrenting is now become sharing logins, and
Yeah.
now the streaming companies are trying to figure out how to monetize that,
Yeah.
um, as
That's like the
well.
modern day version of torrenting. There's
That's
that
true.
peer-to-peer
Yeah,
sharing.
yeah. Exactly,
That's
exactly.
basically it.
Although I imagine that there's a few shows that are probably out there that, if there weren't so many shows that I would probably be interested in watching, like some British shows that are, I
Oh
feel like
no, there's
British,
definitely shit that's not available.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
but there's too much and I don't have the time and
No, I don't have the time
yeah.
anymore. I don't even play video games anymore. It's really sad.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
You've
There are a
stepped
couple games I
away
want to
from
play,
video
but
games.
honestly, there's so much stuff to watch now. I don't even play games anymore.
Well,
Yeah.
there's so much stuff to watch, and we're now in a place in time where things are back to activity levels that are similar to pre-COVID times, right?
Right.
So life has kind of continued on differently, but also similarly in the fact that there's so much going on. In fact, that's a great segue into the fact that New York Comic Con is less than a month away, and we're going on Friday of Comic Con, which I have not been in years, so I'm super excited about it. But I just saw right before we recorded it, just saw that the Next Generation cast is going to be there for a reunion at Comic Con. But of course, they're coming on Saturday, so
Of
and we have
course, we're not
Friday
going to be there.
tickets. I'm not going to be there, so
Who's going to be there on Friday? What are we going to do?
I don't know yet. I have not. I got a couple emails this week from Comic Con about upcoming panels and things like that. For me, going to Comic Con is all about the dealer's
The show
room
floor?
and the artist alley, like just the creative
Oh
side,
my God.
because waiting in line and going to see and I maybe they've changed it up. I think you may even have to register to go to a panel now. I don't know. Literally that's how long it's been since I've been to Comic Con. It's been 4 years, 5 years maybe.
I've never been.
Right. So this is an experience for you. So yeah, so for me, Comic-Con was never specifically about the panels. I would usually, when I had an all weekend pass, I would probably go to like a panel a day, and then the rest of the time I was just wandering around. Because their floor is so huge, so
Right.
huge.
No, it's big. Yeah.
And you can find, if you spend the time, you can find like little gems of things, and but it's like you're literally like going into corners and finding stuff, and it's just it's awesome. I'm excited about it. Not that I need any more stuff, but I just
I'm not
love.
excited for it.
Uh, but you're going anyway. You're coming
I
with
know I'm
me.
going. There's no choice.
There is not any choice. Yes, your
There's
ticket
no
has been
choice. I'm
purchased.
going, but it's gonna be like just so many people that I'm not really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't. On Friday it'll probably be less than Saturday and Sunday, but yes. But also, like, so many people get into cosplaying, and some of the stuff that people do is so amazing.
I'm not really interested in that.
So, well, okay. Fine. You'll
No.
be you're selling being my companion for this day. I can feel it. It's gonna
Yes,
be
I'll be there for you,
okay. All right, good.
basically.
But anyway, so the next generation crew or the Star Trek universe is gonna be there. I think some I want to say some Prodigy stuff is gonna be happening. But I guess it's all one panel. It's like the Star Trek universe panel on Saturday. So yeah. So there's that happening. But that's really the only news since Star Trek Day, which was last week.
Yeah.
And we don't need to rehash that
No.
junior high
No.
production.
I heard that for the people that were there in person, it was more enjoyable.
Okay. Oh, well, that's good. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
That's good.
So, maybe we need to be there next year.
Yeah, right.
That's what that means.
I guess so. So I can criticize it in person rather
Oh my
than
God, there would be
over-
live commentary.
yes, lots of notes.
Yeah.
We'll be like Cranch.
Cranch,
We'll have notes.
Lots of notes.
Lots of notes.
Definitely.
So yeah, so not a lot happening since last week's. And I sent you this Instagram post on Instagram that said the Enterprise is landing, and it was an ad for Wrath of Khan figures and other toys,
I really don't understand the conceit here. Like the Enterprise is landing, the Starship is landing. I don't get it. I don't understand what we're being told. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either. But yes, the Starship is landing. They've got T-shirts and cups and posters, and I'm like, for what?
Unclear.
But that was the first time where I saw like the Starship being replaced with the Enterprise's landing. Anyway, still not clear about this whole thing, but yeah, that's really all that's going on right now. And maybe we should talk about last week's episode of Lower Decks.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, have you ever trained a science officer before?
Absolutely not. No, I didn't know they did this. But Starfleet sent along a lovely manual, which I have been skimming, so you and I will be learning together. Now, isn't that fun?
Sure is.
Now, let's see here. Table of contents, good start. Forward by Ambassador Spock. Not bad. Okay, Vulcan stuff. I tell you what, it would have been logical to find an editor.
Just so you know, I've been studying super hard. Microbiology, xenobiology, astrobiology.
There really are a lot of sciences, aren't there? Too many, if you ask me.
It seems like proper amount, but what I'm saying is I think I'm ready for the exam right now.
Oh, well, according to this, science officer training is less about tests and more about learning to be, the voice of science. Cute.
But maybe it's like also a test? Because I just really want to take a test.
Tendi, does it matter how much you know if nobody's listening? Captains have big egos. You need to cut through that and speak for science.
So, Johnson, this week's episode is called Mining the Mind's Mines, which is quite the tongue twister, to say the
Mm-hmm.
least.
Mm-hmm.
But what did you think of this episode?
Yeah, I liked it. It was good. I thought that it was good. Like the last two episodes, I feel we haven't gotten much of Rutherford and Tendi, so I'm glad that we got more of them in this episode. Tendi definitely had more to do, and Rutherford had his fantasy of Leia Brahms, which is really funny. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, overall, I liked it. It was nice to spend a little more time with the lower deckers as a group, and we also got a little bit more time with some of the senior staff as well. Yeah, it wasn't bad. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I
That's all I
thought
have to say about it.
that's all.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was good. It was good. It was
yeah,
like it didn't blow my socks off, but it wasn't bad either. It was good.
yeah. I mean, it definitely was fun. Some frustrating parts. It was kind of all over the place, right? So that's in some senses, I do love like going around and seeing like how they split up the crew and how what's happening in all the areas, but um this week I felt like there was a whole lot of buildup for what was going on the planet's surface, especially with Mariner thinking that the Carlsbad crew thought they were a bunch of goof offs.
Right.
And
Right.
it wasn't really till the towards the end of the episode where you kind of learn that no, they actually really the Cerritos is talked about amongst the California class ships as being the coolest and doing the
Right.
most
They're like the Enterprise D of the California class.
yes. So that tension was good. There's a lot of tension in this episode. That's actually a really great way to describe this episode because there's a lot of tension between the two crews,
Mm-hmm.
the lower deckers and the captains. Like just the way that Captain Mayer of the Carlsbad was, pushing things back to Captain Freeman, and you had no idea why he was doing this. It was just, she's obviously the senior captain here because this guy looks like a young whippersnapper. Like he almost reminds me of Venkum being, like he must have been so rapidly promoted because he looks about the age of our lower deckers, really. So, but just to put like that kind of tension there was tension
Yeah, I
between.
don't remember. I mean, they both got very aggressive with each other.
Yeah, they did.
Captain Freeman was also very, she was an innocent. She was an innocent bystander. She definitely got up in his face.
Yes, for sure. But I think it was after the fact that like she tried to hand him something and flat out refused, and then that's I think it almost was like Captain Mayer was a representative of Mariner in some senses.
Well, are we supposed to? I mean, basically think that the sentiment of the Carlsbad lower deckers extends to the upper crew as well, and Captain Mayer kind of has this resentment towards Captain Freeman.
Oh, maybe, or maybe just like trying to be subservient to them because they're so
or trying to
cool.
overcompensate or something, maybe.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you want to see it as a reflection of the lower deckers, it's the same thing, right? Like,
yes,
the Carlsbad lower deckers were kind of being passive aggressive, and then the Cerritos lower deckers kind of interpret that a certain way, and they were aggressive back. So maybe it's the same deal here. Maybe Captain Freeman also has insecurities, and Captain Mayer has insecurities, and they were kind of playing off each other in the same way.
Yeah. And that tension also extends, back to Tendi and Miggly Mo too, like she was
P.F.
so,
Funny.
she was tense about the whole thing. And then to have him as who he admits to being a first-time mentor. He's never mentored any senior officers before, or senior officer candidates, or bridge officer candidates rather. So Tendi's disappointment, but then also hoping, there was just a test to do all of this, and instead, Although Miglumo does really help her, in a way that she eventually gets it, right? She has to stand up and like, get in the captain's, in this case, both captains' faces and say that there's something going on here and about this rock.
Right, right.
So there's just this episode is just filled with a lot more tension than I guess other episodes have been. Like there's some humor, but I think there's just this palpable tension in all areas of the show this week. And so, it was good, but
there was some running and screaming, which is usually
yes,
entertaining.
Yes. Well, with the Snake Borg and the clown.
Right, and the Klingon clowns,
yes, I was going to say clown Klingons, but yes, yeah, exactly. Klingon clowns, and then...
and what was that? It was a callback to the Handmaid series, I think.
Yeah, I don't remember
Dragon
the name.
Or something.
I don't remember Krakatoa or whatever it was.
Krakatoa, is it?
No, I don't think that's the name of it, but yeah, there was a callback to that. We had the USS Hood as a callback, yes. Which was great. Leah Brahms is obviously a callback as well, which is just kind of funny that Rutherford has a crush on Leah Brahms as well. That's very young Geordie like.
Well, that's a big conceit of the show where they have these. They're really into like what the TNG crew were into, that's very much along the lines of what we're used to on this show, I think.
Yeah. One thing I have to remind myself about this show is that, as we're talking earlier about complex characters and like things like that this is a show that is not that.
No.
And I think
that's why our conversations about Lower Decks usually doesn't last past 20 minutes because you can't dig too deep into these characters because honestly, it's a cartoon.
Right. And it's all done for show, it's all done
because there are
comedy,
some, there are cartoons and animes out there that are very complicated and the characters are extremely deep, but this is not one of those.
This is not one of those. You're right. And I guess, that's the challenge with watching this is that, you kind of, you're loving it because it's Star Trek, but then you also have to realize that it's not like the characters are going to grow week to week. Like these aren't, they talk about
like maybe a little bit, but
right.
Honestly,
yeah. Brad, what is it? Bold Boimler. I don't know if
I'm not sure that really carried over from episode 2.
So there's that, and then Mariner, so you just kind of, I think we just have to kind of get used to the fact that this show is not going to go in depth to characters. We're not going to see huge leaps. It's all done for fun. And I guess I need to remind myself of that, which is probably why I'm binging, The Expanse right now, because I need some like hardcore sci-fi, like deep character driven stuff right now. And
if I was to compare this to another cartoon, I would probably say like The Simpsons or something, where there are some character elements that are carrying over, but it's like The Simpsons, they're eternally the same at the same time, they're not like Lisa and Bart they're both in like, I don't know, what, 4th and 5th grade for
30
20 plus years, I was talking about our last podcast where I was like, or maybe it was the first episode where I was saying that, I feel that these lower decks could grow and they get promoted, but at the same time, it could be that kind of show where they just stay static as well. And maybe there are some small evolutions in their characters and their personalities, but they are going to stay ensigns for like 10 years.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And that's a good, reframing for watching Lower Decks is that you're kind of watching an episode of The Simpsons or, something that's, just going to be the same week to week, just different crazy adventures. And Yeah, it's been a long time since I've watched like something like The Simpsons or Family Guy or things like that where you kind of get into that mindset
Right.
because we watch such a great deal of like live action and
Mm-hmm.
we tend to dissect what's going on pretty deeply and so it's hard to switch gears and watch for 10 weeks watch a 30-minute or less cartoon that is
Right.
just frivolous and funny and
Like, Prodigy is more complicated. There's a lot more character growth on that show, and it's very consistent. And they remember stuff from like episodes before. There's a lot of
yes.
callbacks.
Yeah.
This episode had callbacks too, actually, like because the calls by lower deckers were talking about the escapades of the Cerritos. So there were some callbacks about like what they've done with the Paclas and like yada yada yada.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Any other thoughts about this week's episode? I mean, we have the Scrabble, which are, I guess they're rock creatures.
I guess, or silicone-based creatures, I think.
And then they're
and then Ransom makes a funny reference when it comes to scientists and how they're always getting themselves into trouble or getting like they're on the frontier and then they're getting like eggs laid in them or they're getting like I don't know whatever like which is very very Star Trek. These scientists are like always they always need saving or something.
Right. Yeah. And I haven't watched this episode. I watched it earlier today. I haven't watched it since I first watched the bulk of the season when we got the screener. And so I'm watching it. And when Stevens gets caught up in the mouth of the whatever, the flying dragon thing,
Krakatoa,
and becomes stone, and then he falls and his arms break off, I was like, oh my gosh, they killed Stevens. So I totally, I did not even remember him surviving until obviously we see him at the end. And
yeah, I guess they were able to reverse the issue.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Repair.
Yes, apparently so, which did not seem like it was the case earlier in the episode. So, but again, this is not a show that's going to kill off any characters really.
Right.
So, because killing off a character isn't funny. So, yeah.
Or they come back,
Oh yeah, or like Shax. Oh, that's right. So Shax was kind of an emotional loss, right? And then suddenly he's back. So I guess they did do that already. So they probably won't repeat that again. But who knows? So yeah. So that's mining the mines. This week's Lower Decks episode.
Cool. All right, Mike, you want to talk a little bit about our sponsor?
Yeah, absolutely. Fansets is the premier sponsor of the Trek Geeks podcast network and Deep Space Pride. And, it's just shy of the middle of the month, and I have no idea what's coming out tomorrow as of the 15th of September. But I did receive my order this week of I've got the Command Delta for Strange New Worlds, and it's really nice. I also got the Michael Burnham Women of Trek pin, and I got this year's poker pin, which is Lower Decks Mariner playing poker.
Do you need to start another pin board?
Yes, I either need to start another pin board or yes, something. I need to do something or rework the one I have.
It's starting to be a problem.
I have a few that are not displayed at the moment. So yes, but anyway, head on over to Fansets because this weekend, if you're listening to this episode when it comes out on Friday, there are probably going to be a couple of new releases from Fansets. So head over to fansets.com, put a bunch of pins in your cart. If you spend more than $30 in the US, you're going to get free shipping. And if you use the code Trek Geeks, all one word, you're going to get 10% off your order. And we want to thank Fansets for being the premier sponsor of Deep Space Pride and the Trek Geeks Podcast Network.
Thanks, Fansets. All right. And we would love to hear from you. If you want to reach out to us, you can email us at deepspacepride@gmail.com, or you can reach us on Twitter and Instagram at Deep Space Pride. And we would love to hear from you. And maybe we will even respond to you.
There we go. Yes, we will. We will respond.
Yes, Mike will respond.
Mike will respond. And next week we have a new, well, actually tomorrow we have a new episode of Lower Decks.
Yes, we do.
And you know, when I thought of that, I was like, and I felt the same way for like the Marvel shows that are going on right now. Like they're kind of like not really appointment television for me anymore.
Oh, I am watching She-Hulk. It's enjoyable.
Oh, you did? Okay. I watched the first episode and I have not gone back to it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's not must-see TV for me.
Right, yeah.
But I do find it enjoyable when I do watch it.
Okay. All right. Well, it's still in my queue. We did watch Thor: Love and Thunder.
I haven't watched it yet.
So
recommend?
Sure. Yeah. Sure. I don't know how resounding that recommendation is.
That was a very strong recommendation.
It's enjoyable. There are some good parts to it. Yes. It's a very typical Thor movie. If you know. Yes. I don't know that it has a ton of impact in the MCU, although nowadays I don't think that the MCU is like filled with a lot of impact. I don't know, maybe in a month or two we have,
I mean, they announced like a zillion things at D23, like have Secret Invasion. What else? Like the movies. I'm sorry, now I'm getting distracted by Disney stuff, but we're talking about Marvel specifically. What was it?
Oh, I have no idea. I didn't. Okay. I know, there was a lot going on. I have not had time to really digest it. And it's not like, I mean, the next big thing coming out is Wakanda Forever. So maybe we'll even venture to the movie theater to see that. Because
that's November, right?
Yeah, November. I want to say November 11th. So
which isn't that far away.
No, it is not. It's 2 months away.
Wow.
Although that's after we come back. Dennis and I come back from Dominican Republic. So.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Fine.
So looking forward to that. But so there's a lot going on. I think there was some more Star Wars stuff announced too, or whatever. But anyway. This is not an MCU podcast either. It is a Star Trek podcast, and we want to thank you all for listening to us. Let us know. Reach out on social or email, and we'll see you back here next week, we hope.
Cool. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Deep Space Pride is a production of Coconut Media Works. Executive producers Bill Smith and Dan Davidson. For more great Star Trek discussion, discover the other shows of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network at trekgeeks.com, or find us in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
Coconut.